I was saying, y'all, it's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and the Washington Commanders have officially released Jonathan Allen. We got to break down why they ended up having to cut him rather than trade him. We're going to break down how much money we get back in cap space because of it. And Spot Track has us having some ridiculous amount of cap space that I didn't even think we had. So we got to dive into that as well. And we're going to dive into everything Jonathan Allen. Of course, we got to wish him well. Salute for everything you did for us. We're going to definitely get into that. And also, we signed kicker Zane Gonzalez to a one-year deal. I'm going to break down how much money he's making. And are we done at kicker, or should we still be looking for a new one? And then also, the Washington Commanders went ahead and exercised their tender on restricted free agent running back Chris Rodriguez. But before we get into everything, make sure you still farm that like button, still farm the subscription button, still farm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the Commanders content, everything free agency draft. I have y'all covered. Every little update, I'm gonna make sure I talk about it. Even if I gotta put several things in one video like this one, y'all will be updated on every single thing. This could be your burgundy and gold one-stop shop. So make sure you stay tuned. I'm working on a post Debo Samuel trade, mocks, off season, free agency draft, and everything like that. So be on the lookout for that, because man, Monday, legal tampering period, everything is about to kick off. And without further ado, let's go and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, and so shouts out to my boy Rio Robinson for this picture that you can see right here, man. It's kind of sad. I'm not gonna lie. This is a pretty sad picture. It's the end of an era, but at the same time, it wasn't a very good era. It was a very fun era, but it wasn't a very successful one. So, you know, even as sad as it is, we can't attach ourselves to, even though, I mean, it may not have necessarily been their faults as individuals. We didn't win much during this era of football, but it's still a sad thing to look at, man. And then also shouts out to Sam 48 because he brings up a good point that cutting Jonathan Allen was always the likeliest outcome. You know, we were hoping that we could trade him, but it just seemed like it was inevitable that we were just gonna have to cut and release. Some teams are probably lowballing us on the situation. Even teams that are interested in Jonathan Allen probably were like, nah, we're just gonna wait till the Commanders have to cut him, because we know that they will eventually cut him if nobody trades for him. The other teams know. Looking at our cap space situation, looking at the fact that we're calling about Myles Garrett and Trey Hendrickson and all of these other top free agents we're potentially interested in, Charvarius Ward at corner and all of these other names we've been attached to, you know, they know that we want more cap space so that we can go and get these guys. So it was almost inevitable that we were gonna have to get rid of Jonathan Allen one way or another by cutting him or trading him so that we can get that over $16 million worth of cap space in return. And so teams were probably just lowballing us. Like, we were calling around like, are you interested in trading Jonathan Allen? Teams were probably saying yes, but they were like, you know, we don't really want to give you a draft pick. You're gonna end up cutting them anyway, so we're gonna play hardball here, wait for y'all to cut them, and then we'll just go and see if we're the team that can go and sign them. And so, I mean, it is what it is, man. The Commanders definitely fielded around and looked for whatever trade value they could get in return. And we were seeing reports from certain reporters that maybe we can get up to like a 5th or a 6th. Turns out we couldn't even get a 7th for him. But maybe it's just bad timing, because this is a great defensive tackle class, which we're going to dive into in this upcoming draft. Arguably the deepest defensive tackle class that anybody has seen in their lifetime. So that brought down Jonathan Allen's trade value, because why would you trade for a $16 million cap hit Jonathan Allen when you could just wait until like maybe the 2nd or 3rd round and get a pretty good starter that's making way less money, a way smaller cap hit, younger, not coming with all of the injuries. Like, I mean, Jonathan Allen just came off of a torn pec. So again, trading Jonathan Allen was very unlikely. We were gonna have to accept something really low, like a 7th round pick. That was like our best case scenario at a certain point. And now ultimately, again, the Commanders were going to get rid of him no matter what. So if there were no trades, we were going to cut him. And now he's hitting free agency a few days early, and he can sign with anybody. Also, shouts out to John Com. He said John Allen's release wasn't a surprise given the offseason developments. He had asked for an extension. That's where all of this started too. I mean, not only did he have the nerve to, you know, with the injury and not being very productive last year, even though in the Lions game he flashed, we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but he had the nerve that after not having a good season, for him to come in and ask for guaranteed money, which, I mean, from his point of view, I can understand it. You know, nobody wants to play with no guaranteed money at all. If he gets hurt again or whatever happens, he'll make way less money. So he was trying to ask the Commanders, hey, can you turn a lot of this non-guaranteed money into guaranteed money? And the Commanders like, nah, like, That's just, if that's what you want, we'll allow you to go seek a trade with other teams and come back and let us know who wants you, and then we'll trade you to them depending on what's going on. And so John Com said that there was interest out there, but teams anticipated his release, so they were basically willing to wait. Again, they were playing hardball. They knew the Commanders, at the end of the day, at worst case scenario, they were gonna cut him to add to our cap space. This whole thing is based on cap space. It's not like Jonathan Allen's a bad player. They just preferred that $16 million worth of cap space to spend on somebody else rather than spending it on Jonathan Allen, again, with a non-guaranteed deal. Shouts out to Josh Taylor. I mean, Washington tried to trade Jonathan Allen, including a package for Deebo Samuel was reported. Like, there were reports out there that when we tried to get Deebo Samuel, we ended up getting him for a 5th round pick, but apparently we tried to throw like Jonathan Allen in there, and then maybe instead of giving up a 5th round pick, maybe we throw in a 7th or something, so maybe John Allen in the 7th, and the 49ers like, nah, we're good. And then there were reports that the Cardinals were one of the teams that were interested in potentially trading for Jonathan Allen, so be on the lookout for the Arizona Cardinals as far as a team that may sign him after we just cut him. And then shouts out to JP Finley. He said, this is how quality organizations operate. I agree, man. Sometimes it's like I've been saying for a while now, quoting Bill Belichick, it's better to trade a player or cut him too early than too late. Any day of the week, anytime. That's how Bill Belichick built that ridiculous Patriots dynasty, because he was always ahead of the curve. And sometimes it hurts, you know, nostalgic and sentimental and loyalty reasons to cut a certain player, especially at a certain time, but just to cut a player in general. But it's better to do it too early than too late. Too late is the worst case scenario. Washington gave Jonathan Allen's camp a chance to look for a trade. It wasn't there. So Allen has now been released, source confirms. Now Allen can hit free agency, shop his services for the best deal right when tampering period opens, which is again Monday. And then technically the new league year starts Wednesday, March 12th. And again, from Monday through Wednesday, it's about to be chaotic. And I'm going to make sure I try to do everything I can to be available to update y'all with every single move that pertains to the Commanders. And now, shouts out to Mason Kinahan. The longest tenured current Commanders players after the Jonathan Allen release are number 1, Tress Way with 11 years after. I'm assuming we'll re-sign him. Then you have Deron Payne, number 2, 7 years. Jeremy Reeves, number 2, 7 years. Terry McLaurin, 4th place with 6 years. And Cornelius Lucas, 5th place with 5 years. I mean, it is actually really crazy. So it's basically an end of an era. Again, Tress Way, when we re-sign him, Deron Payne, Jeremy Reeves, Terry McLaurin, and Cornelius Lucas, man, like that's it. That's it as far as the Redskin names goes. As longest tenured burgundy and gold players, that's it. And then also shouts out to at the Denton Day, because he brings up a good point. It sucks that Jonathan Allen wasted his best years with bad coaching and bad teams. He gave us a lot of this SHIT needs to change. Post-game speeches, all kinds of things. And then when it finally started to change, they ended up cutting them a year after things really started to change. So it does suck. It is a cold world. But shouts out to the Commanders for at least cutting them when they did. Like before free agency officially started. So he has his best shot of landing somewhere he actually wants to land and getting as much money as he hopes to get. With every team that, you know, still potentially needs a defensive tackle out there, you know, if we were to cut them like way later, like after the draft or something like that, or maybe like even second wave of free agency, say like a week or two from now, rather than before free agency starts, maybe every team will have already filled their defensive tackle needs, and then they will be lowballing Jonathan Allen at that point once he's available. So shouts out to the Commanders, because now Jonathan Allen is firmly a part of this defensive tackle free agency market. If you look up top defensive tackle free agents available and things like that, he should be a part of that list, because he's now officially available with all of them. We didn't hold him hostage until the last second. We went ahead and maybe we could have waited to potentially get like a 7th or a 6th round pick, but they went ahead and did him the favor of just, you go ahead and go now and see what you can get. The earlier the better for you. So shouts out to the Commanders organization, at least for that. Even though it is a cold world, it is a business, at least they went about it the right way. And I'm interested in seeing what Jonathan Allen is going to get on the market, because he was easily one of our best pass rushers over the last few years, and he's still one of the better interior pass rushers in the NFL right now when healthy. I won't necessarily like do a video on it when he ends up signing somewhere, but I'm gonna keep tabs on it because I'm personally curious about it. I don't know if y'all do. Let me know in the comment section if y'all want me to update y'all on where Jonathan Allen lands, but I know typically people don't really want to hear me talk about like players that previous Commanders or burgundy and gold players that end up on other teams and things like that. But either way, I'm definitely curious about it, and I'm curious to like as to how much money he'll get, what type of deal, all of that type of stuff. Also, John Kahn brought up a good point. He said that I do expect Jonathan Allen to have strong interest. Going to a contender makes sense, I agree, and can still play, but now teams can get a cost more to their liking. Instead of having to give up draft picks, now they can pay him exactly what they feel like he deserves. We'll see. Also, I agree with Mark Bullock at the same time, though. Allen has been pretty underrated, especially among Washington fans, throughout most of his career. His age and contract situation meant this move was always likely for Washington leading up to you can look like 2 years before and see that this was pretty much inevitable. Just like we're going to probably do the same thing. Deron Payne is going to be in this exact same situation next year. You know, maybe we can end up getting a draft pick for him instead of just ending up having to cut him, but it's just based on the contract and no guaranteed money and how productive they've been beforehand that Deron Payne is going to be in this exact same situation next year. But Mark Bullock finishes by saying that he believes Jonathan Allen will still be a good player next year. And I mean, I think he could. I don't think he's worth the money that we were paying him, but if another team gets him for cheaper, then good on them, because they are still getting a good player when healthy. And then shouts out to Logan Paulson. He said, when the number you're being paid doesn't correlate to the production on the field, this is the result. I agree with this as well. John's a great guy. They should have him back here as much as possible, like off the field wise, as like a returning player, show him love and things like that. But the number he was being paid did not match the production on the field, and I agree. I mean, shouts out to Bobby Gold. He did an article for Hogs Haven back in January 28th, which Washington players provided the best value in 2024. And as like a breakdown real quick, stay with me. Despite its shortcomings, performance will be based on Pro Football Reference's approximate value, AV, which is one of the few broadly available tools to try to quantify a player performance from year to year. A description from the PFR site is below. Essentially, AV is a substitute and a significant improvement upon, in my opinion, metrics like number of seasons as a starter or number of times making the Pro Bowl or the like. You should think of it as being essentially like those two metrics, but with interpolation in between. That is, number of seasons as a starter is a reasonable starting point if you're trying to measure, say, how good a particular draft class is or what kind of player you can expect to get with the number 13th pick in the draft. But obviously some starters are better than others. Starters on good teams are as a group better than starters on bad teams. Starting wide receivers who had lots of receiving yards are as a group better than starting wide receivers who do not have as many receiving yards. Starters who made the Pro Bowl are as a group better starters than who did it, and so on. And non-starters aren't worthless, so they get some points too. And for 2024 salaries, he was using information from Over the Cap for the purpose of this article, basically saying like cap hit interchangeably with salary. Throughout the rest of the article, value will be calculated as cap hit per AV. So you have the AV from Pro Football Focus, and then you have the cap hits and the salary from Over the Cap. And we're basically, he did an entire article saying how much are you worth compared to how much you're getting paid and how much of a cap hit you are. And based off of that, long story short, Brandon Coleman was the number one player in value. Now, of course, Jaden Daniels had the highest AV, but when you calculate how much money he's making and how much of a cap hit he was in 2024, he technically wasn't the best value. Jaden Daniels was a $6.83 million cap hit compared to like a Brandon Coleman who was a $1.101 million cap hit. So that's why Jaden Daniels, even though he has a higher AV, he was far more productive than a Brandon Coleman who only had an 8 AV. Jaden Daniels' value was $343,000 per AV, while Brandon Coleman's was $137,000 per AV. Technically, he was the 8th best value on the team. To kind of give you an idea of how this works, Brandon Coleman was number 1, then it was Olamide Zaccheaus, then Brian Robinson, then Noah Brown, then Mike Sanderstill, then Frankie Luvu, Nick Allegretti, and then Jaden Daniels, and then Quan Martin, Johnny Newton, Zach Ertz. We can keep going and going and going, but my point is, Jonathan Allen was at the very bottom of the list, dead last. Absolutely dead last, man. So when we're talking about value, meanwhile, Jonathan Allen at a $21.4 million cap hit and only a 3 AV, he was a $7 million per AV value, which is the worst by far on the team because Deron Payne is the second closest at only a $3 million per AV value, which is actually pretty insane. So that's why they're moving on. But at the same time, Jonathan Allen did show signs of a player that can still play, especially against the Lions, man. I mean, shouts out to Brandon Thorne. Like, he even posted on Twitter just a few hours ago a non-exclusive highlight reel of Jonathan Allen pass rush wins from the 2024 playoffs, and this was after having a torn pec for 12 weeks and the 2023 regular season. If you wanted to go check that out, it's a whole minute 43 of all 22 tape of Jonathan Allen playing very well, especially against the Detroit Lions in the playoffs that we just won the divisional round in. And then Josh Norris quote tweeted it and said, Jonathan Allen still has some juice. I agree. But then Brandon Thorne went a little too far when he tweeted, Allen is criminally underrated. Difference maker with a unique, truly dominant pass rush move at his disposal. And I think that's a little bit too far. I think Jonathan Allen's somewhere in the middle. Shouts out to Rio Robinson. He said, Jonathan Allen was a dog once upon a time. The parting of ways was always inevitable. Thanks for your service, and we're moving on. And then shouts out to Mike Hall. I agree, because some people are really angry about this. Some people are saying that, like, this is the dumbest move that the Commanders have made at the very least since this entire offseason this year, or even arguably in a few years since Adam Peters has at least gotten here. And then Mike Hall replied and said he wasn't going to play with no guaranteed money on his contract. So why go full Browns and keep someone here that wants a trade and possibly mess up the vibes in the locker room and the culture that they're building? Also, it's a deep defensive tackle class, so why would you not get younger and cheaper? I mean, there's just so many reasons as to why Jonathan Allen leaving made entirely too much sense. So just to let you know, cutting Jonathan Allen did give us an additional like $16.3 million in cap space. And so basically, with releasing Jonathan Allen, we basically got Deebo Samuel money back. And so now we're basically right back to where we started, where it's basically, ultimately, if you think about it, especially cap space wise, we traded Jonathan Allen in a 5th round pick for Deebo Samuel. It leads not directly to the 49ers only, but that's generally how it just went. And who knows, maybe the 49ers end up signing Jonathan Allen, and that's literally how it worked out. So now we got to talk about, how do we replace Jonathan Allen, because that's really important. And I felt like we already needed a defensive tackle before we cut Jonathan Allen. Now we definitely need one, especially since you're probably going to do what you just did to Jonathan Allen this year, next year to Daron Payne. Like I already said, man, Daron Payne, you're next. It may not be this season, but this time next year, we're going to be having the same exact discussions about Daron Payne. Even though, I ain't going to lie, that's the type of guy that, when he gets into that contract year, he goes Super Saiyan. So we'll see. And we need it. I'll take a really good Daron Payne, even if it's like not necessarily a fluke, but it's just like it's that 1 year that he's going to show up. I'll take that 1 year. But we need to have the foresight to know that, after you pay him, he may not still be that same guy that you just got the previous year. This guy plays way better in contract years. History shows. And I'm hoping he does that this year. But at the same time, don't fall for it, Commanders long-term wise. But are we potentially clearing space for a Trey Hendrickson right now? With as desperate as we need like an edge rusher, and we're already been attached to the Bengals, we were singled out. Jordan Schultz literally said the Commanders and other teams are potentially already interested in Trey Hendrickson and have already made calls and things like that. So maybe we're the front runner right now to land Trey Hendrickson. Maybe we needed to clear up some cap space, especially after we lost some cap space getting Deebo Samuel. Clear up some of that back so that we could give it to Trey Hendrickson. And also, with the release of Jonathan Allen, according to Over the Cap, we have $80.756 million worth of cap space, and which is basically 4th in the NFL. But I don't know what happened. Something went wrong. I don't know what Spot Track got going on, but apparently with Jonathan Allen leaving behind $6 million worth of dead cap, but clearing up a total of $16.35 million worth of cap space, for some reason, Spot Track feels like we have $95 million worth of cap space. And like, we're the league runner up now, like 2nd place in cap space. I don't know where Spot Track got their calculations. I'm gonna need to see them run the numbers. Remember from school, show me your work. Spot Track, I'm gonna need you to show me your work, because for us to have the 2nd most cap space right now is amazing, but I don't believe it. I believe I'm closer to Over the Cap. We're like around 80 million, 4th most, but 2nd most at 95. I'm not seeing where Spot Track got that one, but I hope it's true. I just don't believe it. And then again, depending on Daron Payne and Johnny Newton to start going into 2025 makes me nervous. Even though, like I just said, wouldn't be surprised if Payne balls out this upcoming season. History shows that he plays his best in contract years. It seems as if he doesn't really give it his all until he's due to get paid the following season. But I'm still not depending on Daron Payne and Johnny Newton to be your two defensive starting, like defensive tackles, and that's it. Like, you're just going into the season and we're just assuming that's all we're gonna do there. And then you still got to worry about depth. I mean, defensive tackles don't play 100% of snaps or 90-something% of snaps every game like linebackers do. Like, if you feel like we need another linebacker to Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvo, and Jordan McGee, then you have to feel like we need a defensive tackle even more. Defensive tackles play like maybe 50 to at max 70% of snaps in a game. So your two starters are Johnny Newton and Deron Payne, which I already am not very comfortable with. And then who are those guys behind them? Carl Davis, Sheldon Day, like what do we, so we got to figure something out. And remember, back in February 11th, while Daniel Jeremiah was evaluating this draft class, he said, I had potential starting grades on 12 defensive tackles last year. This year, I have 24 of them. Ridiculous amount of depth at the position in this class, and the most that he said he's seen in a long time. So, we may need to go ahead and snatch up one or two of them. Maybe one in like the third round, maybe another one later in the draft. Basically, defensive tackle is the deepest position group in this draft class. We would be remiss to not at least come away with one that we think, if you can't even at least start, at least be a heavy part of the rotation when Johnny Newton and Deron Payne need to sit out every now and then. But most importantly, man, shouts out to George Carmi. I agree. Man, appreciate you, Jonathan Allen. Thank you for the steady presence during ugly times for this organization. I mean, you were one of the very few consistently good things while everything else around you was terrible. So best of luck in the future, man. At the end of the day, salute to Deron Payne. And it's the end of an era, and it is pretty sad. I mean, shouts out to John Kahn for pointing out the fact that Allen played in the final 2 regular season games and 3 postseason contests after suffering a torn pec and recovering from that. He finished with 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, and 7 quarterback hits on the season. In 8 seasons with Washington, he recorded 42 sacks and 108 starts. Prior to last season, Allen had been durable. In the previous 6 years, Allen missed a combined 3 games. Allen, 30 years old, made the Pro Bowl after the 2021 and 2022 seasons when he combined for 16.5 sacks between those 2 seasons. As little as 2 years ago, the Commanders had hoped defensive line of Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Montez Sweat, and Chase Young was spearheading intimidating and effective defense. Never worked out, and out of that whole group, Deron Payne is the only one that remains. Washington traded both Sweat and Young on October 31st, 2023, and then Allen was selected, just to remind you, the 17th pick of the 2017 draft, and he's super burgundy and gold. He played high school football in Ashburn, Virginia, where the Commanders trained, training camp and all of that type of stuff, the facilities, all of that. So, man, again, end of an era. Sad to see you go, but it makes sense why the Commanders made this move. Now, moving on, we also have 2 more updates because the Washington Commanders also went ahead and re-signed kicker Zane Gonzalez to a 1-year, $1.17 million deal. Very cheap, basically like a veteran minimum equivalent type of deal, just to keep him on the team. And I'm pretty sure no other team really wanted him. There was a reason he was available after we went through like 8 kickers last season, and he was like the 8th. And so he was out there on the couch when we called him for a reason. Other teams didn't really care for him. So also, even just negotiation wise, it's like, what could you expect us to pay you when we're the only team that's even willing to deal with you right now? But it's crazy too, because technically we re-signed Zane Gonzalez before Bobby Wagner. So our first re-signing of the 2025 Commanders was technically a kicker in Zane Gonzalez, who I don't even want to be our starting kicker. But again, it makes sense to at least have one kicker on roster before we head into free agency and the draft while we're looking for a better one. Rather than feeling desperate to fill a hole, now we're just looking for an upgrade throughout the offseason, because there's no way that they are done with the kicker position after re-signing Zane Gonzalez. I mean, we had to become the best 4th down offense in NFL history to make up for the fact that we didn't have a good kicker last season. And so I'm pretty sure Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury, Adam Peters, all of those guys know, and even Larry Izzo, our special teams coordinator, knows that this is not the move as far as kicker goes. And there's an argument to be made that maybe Seibert was the better option to bring back instead, but maybe he's still hurt. And also because, first of all, there is a reason when both kickers were healthy, Austin Seibert and Zane Gonzalez, they preferred Austin Seibert over Zane as the starter. Zane didn't play until Austin Seibert got hurt. Also, Zane is probably more consistent in the short range, but Seibert is your only hope at being able to make a 50-plus yarder if we need it, and being able to get kickoffs to land into the end zone. Like, Zane has no leg power. At least Austin Seibert has some ceiling to him. He may not necessarily be as consistent short range wise, but he has some ceiling to him to where maybe with a prayer he can make a 50-yarder. There's no way Zane Gonzalez is making a 50-plus yarder. I'm not putting even $1 on that, but at least You know, Zane Gonzalez is pretty consistent when it comes to PATs, anything short range wise. That's a guy that you can, you know, semi depend on to make it. I mean, because remember, he had that doink in the wild card game to win over Tampa Bay in the playoffs. But I mean, he finished 12 of 15 on field goals overall, which when you're looking at the base stats is not that bad. But we also didn't ask him to kick very far. So 12 of 15 is a little misleading, but he was 20 of 7 of 27 on extra points. So again, at the very least, when you're scoring touchdowns, you know, at least Zane Gonzalez can make you the extra point. We'll have 7 points on the board rather than just 6. And also, all 3 of his misses were in garbage time, so maybe that's a thing, maybe a mental game for him, I don't know. But again, this does not necessarily stop them from not only bringing in a new kicker at some point this offseason as a definitive upgrade, but also maybe they still bring back Austin Seibert as well. Like, just carry 3 kickers into potentially like training camp or offseason workouts and have like a real kicker battle, like Zane Gonzalez, Austin Seibert, and kicker X, maybe like a rookie, like a undrafted free agent. Maybe we don't draft one when we get one that's like an undrafted free agent. Now we have 3 kickers competing. I feel like at the very least we should have 2 going into training camp and all of those offseason workouts. Or maybe we just keep Zane Gonzalez here as like a break glass in case of emergency option until we find our franchise kicker in free agency or the draft. Maybe they don't bring back Austin Seibert. Maybe it's just Zane Gonzalez until we get the next guy. And then worst case scenario, we go into week 1 with Zane Gonzalez. But I'm crying, Adam Peters. If you somehow hear this, please do not let Zane Gonzalez be your starting kicker going into week 1. That would be incredibly scary for me, man. Especially with our schedule getting tougher, we're gonna need every point we can get, and field goals are gonna matter, man. But shouts out to Grant Paulson, playing out the fact that he kicked in 9 games for his last season. He went 5 of 7 on regular season field goals and 1 of 2 in the playoffs. He avoided disaster on a doink winner in Tampa Bay. He was only 30% of kickoffs that resulted in touchbacks. That's terrible. And then 1 field goal try from 50 plus, and that was it. We already knew, just based off of seeing them in practice, don't you even dare attempt the 50 plus yarder with this guy. And I'm just sick because the NFL really cheated us out of our real franchise kicker that should have been Brandon McManus, who just signed a 3-year deal with the Packers. But that's already done and gone. So we got to move towards the future, stop looking at the past. And we're currently on hunt for a franchise kicker, I'm sure, even beyond just Zane Gonzalez. And then also moving on, you have Chris Rodriguez. We have announced, the Commanders announced, they have extended an exclusive rights tender on running back Chris Rodriguez, and I'm happy to have him back, but this does not stop you from going and getting Amarian Hampton, Travion Henderson, or Christian Jenkins in the draft. It does not stop you at all. I'm happy, though. I like having Chris Rodriguez around. I feel like he deserved more carries than he got last year, but he is not the answer at running back. We still need a true RB1 workhorse, guy that can, you know, instead of it being a 15-yard run tackle from behind, a guy that can take it all the way to the house on a 50, 60-yard run. We need a real electric Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley level back, and you know, we'll see if we have a chance at either of those 3 guys. Maybe you have to take them in the first round. I feel like at the latest you can get either one of those guys the second round, and hey, do whatever it takes. Again, shouts out to Chris Rodriguez. I'm happy to have him back, but we're not done. Just like we're not done with the whole kicker situation, we're not done with running back. Also, before we get up out of here, lastly, no matter what's going on with the Commanders, no matter how upset you may be at certain things they do or don't do, remember, you could always be a Falcons fan, man. Because Deandre Rossini just updated the fact that teams interested in trading for Kirk Cousins have been told by the Falcons that they are not trading him right now. I guess they're my Falcons fans, friends, and you know, people I follow on Twitter, because we're mutual Georgia Bulldog fan friends. So I'm seeing like all of the hate and sadness. They are depressed about this on the timeline right now. Like literally right before I started recording the video, I saw that notification. I had to include that in the video. So again, no matter what, no matter how sad you may or upset or disappointed you may be in the Commanders for certain things they do or don't do, remember, you could always be a Falcons fan. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed. If you please stuff on that like button, stuff on the subscription button, stuff on the bell. Next, that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinion video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about this whole Jonathan Allen situation. Who do you want to replace Jonathan Allen with? Are you going to wait till the draft, or are there any potential free agents out there? Now, Milton Williams, I like him, but I feel like he's going to cost way too much money. I would have preferred like an Osa Odigizua, but let me know how y'all prefer to replace Jonathan Allen. free agency draft, whatever you want to do. Let me know if you agree that this defensive tackle draft class is as deep as Daniel Jeremiah and a lot of these experts feel like it is. Also, let me know how you feel about the Zane Gonzalez signing, re-signing. Do you feel like we're still looking for our true #1 starting franchise kicker, or do you feel like they're done with Zane Gonzalez for any crazy reason? And let me know how you feel about Chris Rodriguez, and also let me know how you feel about being a Commanders fan, man, especially heading into free agency where we're going to get active, and at worst, we have the 4th most cap space in the NFL. We're probably not done making trades. Don't be surprised if we go and trade even for like a Trey Hendrickson, so we should be happy and optimistic. I know it's sad to see Jonathan Allen go, but looking towards the future, we are at least at worst top 5 most optimistic fan bases as far as our future in football goes. So let me know how you feel about everything. Of course, let me know. And make sure you leave a like on this video before you go. Appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.